Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. I gather us all here today so you can listen to your favorite N-word and talk about folkloring the fantasy files to death. Right? With doing this, I should be able to tie in everything that has happened over the years and whatnot, but, you'll find out what you need to know as you listen along. Disclaimer. Imagination Land is my favorite place to play in because it's the only space I totally control. With that being said, all of the fantasy files are written for me. You're allowed to enjoy them being my adventure, love, and 6 languages from the perspective of enjoyment without hurting anyone in the process. For everything in Lover's Mask is how I wish my reality, my existence could be. From the superpowers to the lack of worry, to all of the smiles, and most importantly, making love out of nothing at all. Welcome to the Tri-Stone era. Again, these are the only worlds made for me. Every other world is made for everybody. Study the multitudes of powers, culture, music, people, supers, guides, and locations. I only want lucky things in my atmosphere at all times. Now, in a land of imagination, in a land of home, Terrance Prescott was born in the final world of the Tri-Stone era. The one where the unfathomable of miracles happen. Sure, there's some terror, but it's so fantastic, you wouldn't want to come quick either. Look at you, dialing up your travel agent, eh? They wouldn't know where to start, but I do. It all started when 2 guys got together. They decided to design under and over euphoric spaces that was the absolute definition of making love out of nothing at all. From his caramel chocolate skin to be, to his red eyes of danger to be, to being coveted by lavender hair on every follicle to be, is what dreams are made of. To keep dreamy vibes as status quo, he started writing, creating, designing at the tender age of 7. Never let up on designing fantasy worlds or fantasy characters, but all of it simply prepared him for the Izrael constellation. A lovely set of personally designed galaxies that looks like a cursive eye, as if Terrance was writing it himself. This constellation brings forth more absolute definitions of making love out of nothing at all, providing every inch of any universe with the luck, connectivity, and love all intelligent species needs. Society is simply based off of all of the stories of the Tri-Stone era. They have their own planets floating in a magical plate system. This system is gigantically tall and orbits the sun all at the same time on the same axis. Just a beautiful wall over more than 36 planets that mirrors the home planet of this galaxy. Planet R1 has more human-based society, whereas the plates have a more fantasy-based society. Superpowers exist on both, heavily and heavenly. The R1ians look up to the Tri-Stone era. They hold an annual Brutal Till You Fall tournament so that 36 people can go traveling on the plates. They either stay in heaven or don't, but they don't all live grueling lives on the planet. Our faithful peacekeepers tend the laws of the planet so they can expect the kind of life in heaven. Either heaven or the space colonies. There's lots of those in this galaxy as well as this infinite universe. Carefully stationed around other intelligent species the Tri-Stone kind have come across us for. They tend to stick into live and let live unless the intelligent species are volatile. There's been plenty of bad discoveries throughout the Tri-Stone era's existence. None of them have stopped us yet. How could anyone? The most mighty warriors of any universe made it so that they can make any universal beings just as powerful. It's called the red spread of the Tri-Stone. A beautifully brilliant red spread that can cover at least 25 people. It's a spirit weapon, designed by Universe Infinite during its dawn. Started from the bottom of the totem pole of power with remix, then flew around the era until everyone has been caressed by its might. Now Gazania Bulgari is just as powerful as Nexian Borns. You've been warned. Their way of immortality looks lovely on them, and you could gain immortality too if you make the right friends. Good, neutral, or evil, all of them have their fruits. All of them have their eternal bliss, from the most northern plate to the most southern, crisscross it from east to west. The magic of these plates exists so the worlds look like floating mountains in outer space. Yes, their ozone still act like they are intact. The second you descend into the atmosphere low enough for sight to reach a horizon, it will appear like a normal planet. The second you orbit out, you're back to looking at a magical land in outer space. Terrance Prescott belongs to the origin lands known as the home plate. Terrance Prescott grew up in Spartan Modeling, nation of sakes, which is my version of the United States of America. It's of the home plate of the plate system of Universe Infinite, from the Miraculous Academy to Pine Street Elementary, to Elemental Junior High, to Spartan High, to the University of Durham. Then went on a reality show called Stranger Code with his best friend, Michelangelo Kane. Beautiful times were had, but he stayed out of trouble, tending to Imagination Land, like always. But that's when he wasn't in trouble. Triumphing over the trouble led him to securing an animation career. Here's the kicker. The road leading up to the Azarev constellation was a long one. It started off with a Michelangelo, then went to a Dario, then went to an August, then went to a Javon, and then went to a Claudio. These are known as his exes, the only 5. Any other time, his head was in other universes because that's what kept him sane. Out of trouble, at peace, happy, satisfied, gifted, and true. The things these gentlemen taught him was a long list. Here'd go. Love language. How to hold someone accountable while loving them. How to be held while being accounted. Closed mouths don't get fed. Put on a slow song to dance in a snowstorm. With more color comes more benefits. Lifetime energy. Boyfriend material. Hoes put in work. To continuously look for new things. Especially music. How to let go. How to hold on. And the most important, only if he makes you feel like it's better to be in a relationship than single. Without further ado, the exes. Michelangelo Kane, of German human descent, hailing from the House of Brown, grew up as Terrance's best friend. They were as thick as guys forever it seemed after their day in kindergarten. First grade was celebratory. Second grade was a whirlwind because no one remembers it. Third grade was the beginning of growing pains, but the fourth grade took care of it. Fifth grade taught them both to believe in themselves and one another. Sixth grade was when they swore into their best friendship. Seventh grade was blasphemous. Eighth grade was wilding. Ninth grade was a blur. 10th grade had them on status 10. 11th grade was torturous. 12th grade was even more. First year of college was when they were released from prison. The gates of heaven opened for them every time they assumed a position. Terrance was always with the magic. Michelangelo was always with the comic. Held torches up for one another and continues to, in regards to their writing creativity. Michelangelo will boldly state in interviews that having a childhood friend is so important. He's lucky because of it and won't let the world forget it at all. His life has been wild because of his childhood friend. He has no wishes because of Terrance. But one thing is for certain, to this day, when they think of each other, they think about partying. He's a celebrity personality, A-list actor and comedian. His superpower is Crystal Pegasus. Dario Jumbo, of Jamaican Scottish human descent, hailing from the House of Livingston. He was always an enigma, straight passing and with all of the charisma anyone could hope for. Lovable by all, but always felt like he didn't fit in until somebody did the math for him and taught him the way. Realizing what kind of world he was brought in had him chasing dreams of football stardom. Grew up quarterbacking his way through life. Made it to college that way. Was an all-star in college too. Never a dull moment in his life. Never a calming moment in his life. Until he was in Vegas close to the 4th season of Stranger Code. There he was, DJing it up, because guess what time it was? Booty cologne time. Had the whole venue tore up that night. Even had the executives checking him out for possible shows for the network. Making art out of noise was what he was doing, but it was when he saw Terrance that he would have his first sense of serenity. The DJ set was set, but in that moment, the club was silent. But one thing is for certain. To this day, when they think of each other, they think about partying. He's a celebrity personality, sports anchor, and sports equipment designer. His superpower is weather. August Matthias, of British human descent, hailing from the house of Miles. Strength, out the gate of the womb, just bolting, as fast as he could, every chance he could. Ended up being a rugby natural. Ended up being the captain his whole life. Walked into an Olympics and cleared the field so many times you would think he was a god too. But it was always hilarious whenever he saw an animal. But it's more hilarious that his peeps, every last one of them, have a picture of him with their pets. He got a license to be a veterinarian throughout all of his clever ruggedness. Had a golden mane, had gold medals, a gold plaque. All he needed was to keep his life gold. That was disrupted when he became a fan. Then was all the way jeopardized when he met Terrance. Was in a city on other business, but he packed the red spread of the Tri-Stone era book just in case he could make it to the Tri-Stone convention. That was being held that weekend too. At some point, he went to a diner and it was oddly jumpy, oddly busy, oddly boisterous. Everyone was having a great time that weekend, and it was to the occasion of several events in the atmosphere. When he walked in, he just wanted to get some food and get out because of how celebratory it was. Then he saw some magic, decided to say hello to that magic. The magic turned out to be friendly towards him. Then the magic derailed the rest of that weekend. One thing is for certain, to this day, when they think of each other, they think about partying. He's a professional rugby coach, celebrity personality, sports anchor, and veterinarian. His superpower is Sun Lion. Javon Vellum, of African Caribbean human descent, hailing from the house of Zvantos. Because he grew up in the capital of the nation of Sakes, he naturally gravitated towards suits. Intelligence was never far behind for him. He wanted to be smart, ahead of the class, the one answering every question so he could eventually be a brainiac. Kind of annoying, but he grew out of it once he got what he wanted out of education. A true direction. Directed himself right into a lovely life, purposely for the sake to treat himself until his dying breath. Not greed-focused, pleasure-focused, because life can be so much fucking better when you have everything you want. All he wanted was to have run-the-world money, let me take my ass to the doctor money, nostalgia flavors hunting your tongue money, and cushion to deal with any kind of emergency money. His master plan had him being vetted by a lot of law firms, but he didn't accept anything until it landed him in a national house. Here's the kicker. He's one of those gays that do not mind being filmed while partying, but he isn't truly wild with it. Nothing he ever done in his early 20s has come back to bite him in the ass yet. But boy, oh boy, does he have a biteable ass. His favorite kind of party involves jock straps, and that's how he met Terrance. He wasn't self-made at all in that moment. He was a fanboy. Terrance became a fanboy too. One thing is for certain. To this day, when they think of each other, they think about party. He's a Democratic legislative director. His superpower is pollution Alvin. Claudio Dalgan, of Nigerian Caucasian human descent, hailing from the house of Baxter. He grew up in Hamburg, Germany. Yes, he's accustomed to hamburger jokes and has a lot up his sleeve. Always had a good time growing up there. Growing up there led him to wanting to be an astronaut. Mostly contributed to the spaceship chandelier over his crib. Parents never threw it out. He discovered it when he was 10 when he was in the attic being nosy. In that moment, he looked out the window and never stopped gazing out of Earth's atmosphere. When he grew into his powers, he flew up to the tip of the ozone layer so he can get his first taste of space air. Titanous wielders can do that. Shortly after, a guidance counselor helped him formulate a master plan so he can spend his life as an astronaut. Went into outer space for good for the first time when he was 19, and once he got to Space Colony Saturn's Edge, majored biology, endology, avionics, and mechanics. His frequency for surviving eventually would lead him to being one of the 5 commanders of the space colony, but that wouldn't come until he's 30. To celebrate such a young man making an echelon rank, they said he could take up vacation anywhere for a month. To the snow den he went. He was prepared to enjoy Earth's atmosphere, something he hasn't touched since he left Earth. What happened there, he considers luck. Left the resort with a 5-star review. It was one person that made his love language complete. He did that for that person too. But one thing is for certain. To this day, when they think of each other, they think about party. He's one of the commanders of Space Colony Saturn's Edge, an endologist, mechanic, and biologist. His superpower is blue tightness. How to hold someone accountable while loving them, how to be held while being accounted. Mouth and ears were always open. Songs for all atmospheres with the most color. Lifetime energy, boyfriend material. Holes were working to continuously look for new things, especially music. Then learn how to let all that go, holding no more, and all of them were it. In a lot of points of their relations, they made him feel like being in a relationship with status quo. Then Izrael became something perfect for this universe. Roll began in his mid-20s. He had a decision to make. Which of his stories would he start with animating completely? With exactly 16 stories at that time, he coin flipped until one was left. Although Universe Infinite is indeed infinite, it has a plethora of parallel universes now. Every coin flipped created another universe because of his personal divine intervention of actually creating said stories. Some people like to say, within everyone's skulls, there are universes. When someone creates a figurative world, there's a whole universe. All in all, universes are infinite, and this was his time to add to the stockpile. But finally deciding on what his existence will be, prompted the ether of the universe to divide into 16, making 16 very different life paths for him. That's where Hokinjo Gunnock comes in. By the time Terrance was 30, he was in 16 different places because of the trajectory of each of the stories he built. The love he created out of nothing was impressive to Hokinjo. Too impressive, if you will. That time, he spent the most magical night creating the Izrael constellation. It's because of Terrance's direct way of imposing his will through his writing that made Hokinjo's eyebrows disappear his own hairline. He had to ensure that that kind of love would surface in this reality, over and over again. Because the way superpowers were etched into Terrance's essence, all he saw was art from one molecule to the next. After he created that kind of molecular scale in the latest Izrael, all 16 versions of him and the 16 versions of everyone else is going to have life perfect to the point that this universe will spread with no remorse. May it stay peaceful. Now say hello to a god named Hokinjo Gunnock, of Taiwanese god descent. He hails from a divine dimension that specializes in making niche gods. His niche, to spread the heaven and hell out of love until everyone is in love. Skips and hops many dimensions, many universes until he finds incredible societies that could use a new way of love. It's a beautiful sight to behold, seeing him create 13 galaxies in the loveliest cursive eye. Big old explosions of life, one after another until the last one is left. After the end of the cursive eye is created, a giant stream of rainbow-colored energies reverses to the beginning. Then that universe is blessed beyond blessed with so much magical might behind love that looking up to it is like the breath of triumph after clearing an epilogue. Surviving to this day, anyone seeing it will activate nothing but miraculous molecules in every witness's membranes. Now that's what real benevolent gods do. You're formally welcome to my fantasy worlds, a whole bunch of senseless tales of ridiculous amounts of adventures, loves, and that's what we're doing. 16 different men over 16 different worlds, following their stories of love with Terrance Prescott. Originally designed for the lack of testosterone I was getting at that time in my life, but creating and typing out these worlds still completes me. It's one of my playgrounds that deserves the infinite treatment. So here we are. Here to talk about all of the magical know-how, the life know-how, society know-how, and lust know-how. Lust. Christina Perry once sung, "It's better to imagine than not live at all." Society. I feel like existence will be better without tyranny. Life should be a journey of discovering all of the positive things that makes magic real. Magic, from manifesting elements to dealing with monsters and enjoying through worlds. The filters that I use in my mind give me an excuse to create fiction until there's nothing left, because my entire life will revolve around creation instead of inferiority. I don't miss a beat with separating fantasy from reality, but I will spend majority of my time dealing with things that don't bring me stress. Every time I witness good things happening, I fire them somewhere with one of my characters or one of my places. Then I flip it until it's no longer real, so that it's comfortable in imagination. Uncontrollable laughter is what I usually get from taking a light from this world, but that keeps a nigga way out of trouble. I like to focus on positive, heartwarming, losing minutes to laughter, hugs that would change your life from even just thinking about them, the protection of innocence, and lastly, knowing that when I'm on my final moments, I have no regrets of spreading light, because I never, not once, held darkness in my arms like a baby, have it as a ball and chain, deal with a figure in a corner, or a ceiling. I let it go, like I let all these new ideas go. Then there's the factor of never forgetting trauma for the purpose of never reliving it or damaging another because of it. So when you hear a nigga say, yeah, ho, I'm about to put in work to help another nigga out with their darkness, because I will bring that light out in everyone. As you can see, there's a rainbow plethora of men in this group of characters. I find handsome, sexiness, comfort, and a lifetime in all of mankind, while limited to what I find attractive. You're welcome to get your head out of the gutter too, because the real pleasure lies with not being ashamed of any of mankind or yourself. Now I'll introduce you to the 16 reasons why these men were created, in the order in which they were created. Duke Noriega. I'm an enthusiast of martial artists. Mixed martial artists are the biggest on their list. Duke is a subconscious land exec. I have a healthy relationship with mine. Do you with yours? He is the exact definition of a fantasy man, and you can contribute that to 7 Streeters' Perfect Man, or whatever it was titled. It was on her MySpace, and I had that song until an external hard drive took a dump. So do the math to when that song was created. Duke was created in light of that song being replayed to death when I had it. Tessie Dretter, a subconscious land exec. His source song is Nadia Ali's Must Be the Love. Colson Noel. I like the idea of serial killers. None of them are physically or mentally inspiring or attractive, but Fantasyland was able to comfort one into existence. His origin song is Radiohead's Let Down. Dope Donovan. Rockman Dunbar. His origin song is Jake Davies' Crawl All Over. Sothio Charles, a mix of an old army brother and Elias Tefexis, being Cornell Scipio on Alphas. His origin song is Lion Babes, Treat Me Like Fire. Rafoon Runzo, Bodega Bams. Origin song is Lumides Mars. Havoc Eero, Dino De Palma or Tony Daniels. His origin song is Don Richard's James Dean. Griffin Ross, a subconscious land exec. His origin song is Lindsay Lohan's To Know Your Name. Ozil Enzo. You would be hard-pressed to believe me, but there was a very handsome Ozil in a drive-thru of a particular Bojangles for a long time back in the day. Yes, that was his name on his name tag. His origin song is Cat Graham's Super Dope. Nayano James. Tim Kane. His origin song is Candice Play's Fall in Love. Jason Spinoza, a subconscious land exec. His origin song is Chantel's DJ Made Me Do It. Gavino DeRuga, a subconscious land exec. Origin song is Lumine's My Last Thug. Jinjo Ains, a subconscious land exec. His origin song is Crystal K's Telepathy. Hunter Brock. Brett Harrison. Origin song is Hilary Duff's Arms Around the Memory. Lasagna West. Spence Moore II. Origin song is Trisha's Over Me. All of the faces involved are just for casting purposes, unless I said his name. Now those songs are more partial to me than being able to breathe. Those songs are science when I listen to them. From the production to the vocals, to the mastering of them. Now moving along. In the current day and age of the story, everyone is 35 years old and the stories exist as if they are consistently 35 years old. Later in the development of the series, I decided to travel through time with the files to where the final chapter of everyone exists as if it's 5 years later. Yet, everyone will remain 35 because it's a part of the perfect worlds. Friends, all 35 too. Because I have created these in an aspect of just playing around, I never timelined this series like I do my 30 main stories. Later development included X's that led to all of their love languages, the foundation of their friend groups, their prior existence to present day, and how they will endure the news of Terrance Prescott being a guide, especially in the sense that Rafoon and Lasagna are guides too that come from separate universes. Then a personal song stain was developed as well as everyone's science fiction. They all didn't have superpowers in the beginning because I was focused on the erotic capacity of this series. Their powers, their weapons, their fighting styles, and whatnot were eventually developed too. Now let's traverse over their simple summaries. Terrance Prescott, of African-German god human descent. He is the sole creator of the Tri-Stone era, as is coined as a roadmap of his brain, DNA, RNA. Naturally creating these worlds since he loves creating love out of nothing at all. He grew up in this world with a simple dream: make the most high-octane stories and then travel all of the universes, spreading them stories until his journey of existence is over. All depending on when he's tired of existing. But he's young. He has many millennia to journey. He's also built with the ability of rebirthing. That will be example whenever he visits other worlds. Sometimes he'll throw himself into a new world as a newborn and just go with the flow until he naturally remembers where he is. Usually that's when he reaches 35 years of age. Yet always with the benevolency, the peacy, and the protexy. His trusted rainbow hazard of a double sword is the exact might of any given universe. Won't dare get that information to anyone he ever meets, but good luck on finding a way to destroy him. His parents made it so that he will always be protected by that double sword. You would be flabbergasted at what it takes to confine the magical might behind the universe into any object. Yet, he has never used that weapon against his purpose, peace, or integrity. He's the president of operations, artistic director, animation director, and brand head of the Tri-Stone Era Animation Corporation. His superpowers are imagination, with the categories of life, wind, astronomy, and ice. Duke Noriega, of Spanish human descent, hails from a broken house of Maneo. Broken in the sense that his mother committed suicide because of his father. When he found that out, the abuse against him stopped simply because he murked his father. His record was washed of all disgrace because of it being ruled as self-defense. A hero saved him and had him moved to Charlotte, Carolina. In this world, the Carolinas is just one. South is known as Marvelin. Yes, I know I need to rewrite everything. His new father figure gave him everything he needed. That was what he couldn't get from his mother because of his father, essentially. Everything his father took from him. Because of the love he had from an adolescent age on, it helped him filter his rage to be handled in positive capacities. So it seemed. He stayed with violence to the point that he was the captain of his wrestling team, rugby team, and martial arts club. Eventually, he would join a mixed martial arts club and be deemed as a man with prime potential. The heavyweight circuit will never be the same. Worked his way to a championship match and hasn't given up any of the belts since. Going on 5 years of might, where he gets to enjoy endorsements, travel, products, and pleasing fans of violence worldwide. Sometimes disregarding his many contracts to enter kill or be killed tournaments. That's where he truly unleashes all sentiments of rage he has in his vessel. He's the current heavyweight mixed martial arts champion of 5 fighter leagues, fitness spokesmodel, and video game model. His superpower is Golden Werewolf X. Tezi Dreddle, of Arabian human descent, hails from the house of Omazamo. He was an insightful young child. Sometimes so insightful, it seemed like he was already in his 20s as a child. He firmly understood what kind of world he was brought in by the time he was 5. Parents recognized in him that he could possibly be of the spectrum, because both of them are. They understand that the journey called life should adhere to every vessel's individual nature. To protect their son from the atrocities against the queer, they told him he had to act so he would never be in danger. The questionnaire he went through with them when he was 10 was a bit disastrous. It created a rage in him that teetered on the lines of, would he stay enrolled in schools or not? Getting away with never giving in to human nature was mighty of him, but it was in how he protected other queers that would get him in trouble. Eventually, he would grow up to be an ambassador, a queer with a reputation of protecting his kind and being a hard-punching mechanic. One day, when he was 15, he was allowed to finally drive a motorcycle. That was his shoo-in for a lovely life. Traveling around the world to become a motorcycle champion eventually turned him into a millionaire, still with the intentions of living a smooth life. Whatever he does never looks bad against Morocco. So they keep him as high as his high potential being regarded as a protected citizen worldwide. He's a Grand Prix motorcycle champion, motorsports model, motorcycle tester, and foreign diplomat. His superpower is water. Colson Noel, of Dutch human descent, hails from a broken house of Borns, a different house of Borns, but broken nonetheless. Mother fell in love, conceived with the wrong man. Father was mostly non-existent, but his mother went above and beyond with taking care of him. She was his saving grace. Even through all of her bad relations, she tried to protect him from the cruelty of the world for the longest. They led him secretly doing damaging things against society, one of them being harming other boys. Expulsions riddled his life a lot growing up, but his disdain against males was natural, to the point he almost killed one of the local bullies. His mother gave him some words that would shape his mind to being a righteous serial killer. The examples of boys she would date were all the wrong examples, but after that talk, she never dated a bad man again. When she exampled to him that you can escape a bad life, he could too. His rage as a human was quieted since, but to deal with the urges of ending a bad man's life, he would start killing prominent men in society that are perfect at putting on shows as if they are ashamed of the real devil they are. He isn't. He prides himself for being one of the many cleaners of society. Yes, there's a network of them, and he's considered the top dog. He's the president of operations for the IT department of a private military company. His superpower is Doberman speed. Dope Donovan, of African Inuit human descent, hailing from the house of Ferdinand, who was a songbird almost instantly after being born. You would be amazed at how his cries sounded like he could already vocalize. Spent majority of his life making music his business. When he wasn't, he was being a lovely kid to his peers and making faculty enjoy their life direction. He was already dope before understanding the full capacity of that word. Yet, he had a friend who would end up making him realize a lot of his childhood basked in darkness. Was the type your parents tried to warn you about, but they had him writing and producing a song that went platinum. Put that professional footballer in his place while giving dope a pedestal for a lifetime. Once a millionaire, always a millionaire. But he decided to spread light with his potential. After half a decade, handling 3 albums, he retired his music career to profess in it. Ended up being the dean of music at Longtime University. Welcomed in a prosperous way because he received the tenure that no intelligent could say no to. The freedom he received for choosing honey over vinegar is something he never takes for granted, but his state of being is for the worse because of his superpower. A handsome man with a voice of heaven and hell has culinary as a superpower. So powerful, he can give non-singing vocal cords an upgrade that would turn them into perfect pitchers in the form of red velvet chocolate chip cookies. He hands that gift out often, because why not? He's the dean of music and music professor of Longtime University. His superpower is culinary. So Bill Charles, of Irish human descent, hailing from the broken house of O'Mars, as quiet as is kept. Resurrection isn't always an option, even in high magical worlds as the Tristone era. His father died in a house fire that was sparked chemically, the anti-super being chemically. When he saved his son, he tried to save his wife. She was joyriding at the time. He searched aimlessly for her. His mother suffers from schizophrenia and is permanently in a psych ward until the day she dies. He had friends in high places. The House of Briggs, House's best friend, Maida Tion. They have been inseparable since they met in the neighborhood at Yay Height. They took him in after his mother was shipped off, but tragedy will fall on him again when Maida Tion was killed before they were set off to college. It's a wonder that his mental state is as strong as it is. It's harder than diamond. Any psychic would attest to that. One of the things his father and Maida had in common was the hard knock life around motorcycles. To enjoy their memory, after college and after making his presence known to the queer community of Charlotte, he made a motorcycle game. I Stay at Your Mother's. Yes, his sense of humor wasn't tarnished by his actual mother. The Yo Mama jokes he had stockpiled over the years actually helps the youth of the queer community. Helping children notice a life without either parents is possible is something only a savior can do. He's regarded as a strong foothold of the community because he wasn't left behind. Therefore, no one will ever be left behind if he can help it. He's a UPS district manager and the owner of ICM motorcycle gang. His superpower is fire. Rafon Runzo, of Dominican God human descent, hailing from the house of Mayi, all the way from the world of Remnant. Ruby, you should know the story by now. So essentially, Rafon is a fanfic character. In that world, only 2 gods were discovered. Now I'm here to tell you about one of their goddesses, the goddess of protection. Because of how humans went bananas for the gods of light and darkness, she deemed that the world would need a protector that would prevent the hunting of silver-eyed beings. She sought a hunter. The one she knew was the top of the hunters at that time. Procreated with him, then sent him to another universe so that her plan of protection isn't derailed by his existence. Knowing that gods that grow up with a mortal parent will prove to derail their purpose. Rafon knew neither parent, but his mother made it so he felt love whenever he was overwhelmingly lonely. Filtering in other warriors of that world helped him transition into the top dog she designed him to be. Rafon was the hunter leader of Team Rust, being Rafon Runzo, Umela Save, Sloan Vela Vega, and Tavella Mova Red. That was his team for a long time that traveled that world and ensured the safety of Remnant. There were 7 epilogues after he turned 19 that shaped the world of all of the academies. Outside of being a hunter, he was a rugby captain. I hope you understand the champion and 2 pals made everything of his life about protection and sports entertainment, significantly valuing all of his time to protect the art of rugby and all of the partying around it. He's the captain of the Red Bandicoots, of Remnant, and now the Tristone era, as well as the hunter team lead of Rust. His superpower is stars Matism with the form of Gundam. Havik Yero, of Turkish human descent, hailing from the house of Diosis. Havik has killed before. Back when he was 13 years old, he was being bullied on speculation of being homosexual. With him being able to defend himself like an adult, he hurt a group of boys and put one in intensive care. Via, knee kicked to the dome at a horrid speed. The boy lost all brain function by the 3rd day on life support. Havik knows what it means to take a life because his parents taught him about their decision as well as hunting. Explaining himself in juvenile court allowed for him to be exonerated of manslaughter in any case. His parents may have been Muslim, but he was able to escape to the Netherlands and continue growing up there as well as catching opportunities to venture to other nations. He's very self-made, and he doesn't let any trauma rule his life. He has learned how to live and let go, due to purging mental exercises, especially after tasting outer space for a few years in his late 20s. His whole traveling life has helped him never take things for granted and to accept all walks of life. Due to his superpower of light, he developed a way of trekking, but he didn't take up the bounty hunter route. He wanted to spend his life giving intelligence to those that want to travel as fast as light too. He's a satellite engineer and language professor for Aerostar College of Avionics. His superpower is light. Griffin Ross, of Irish human descent, hailing from the house of Goldburn. He grew up with a twin sister. He took after their father, she took after their mother. They have lived like rock stars, to put it short, almost inseparable at times, but not really. Twins or multiple beings born into portal as a superpower creates them as a hive mind. No psychic powers needed. They could filter at which times it would tune in, but for the most part, they stayed protecting each other growing up. Their only separation was college times. He studied abroad almost his entire college career, over in Amsterdam. He could finally enjoy his sexuality without being worried about anything. Still kept it in the closet when he returned home, but he also returned with connections in Ireland, to the point he can move his fireman career across seas and still be a protector of society. That protector was always in his blood. Throughout his entire life, he and his sister have always been helping in minuscule ways to big ways. Helping with hostage negotiations, going to places they shouldn't, bringing people with them they shouldn't, dodging bullets literally, and hanging out with monsters. Yet, So in the closet, not a single person he's close to knows the true him, not even his twin. He's a high-ranking firefighter and truck operator. His superpower is Crimson Portal, and crimson is a color that stands for earth and lava. Ocel Enzo, of Mexican human descent, hailing from the house of Oviedo. His parents were blessed with the superpower of pollution, but they didn't want their son to have the strongest superpower gene in him. You know, being a pollution welder has its fruits, but that's after you reach 25 learn how to control such a devastatingly useful superpower. What they did detailed finding a coven that would actually help them out. It was so much work to get his powers changed, but that bettered all three of their lives and pretty much the entire world. First generation dragon welder he became, been considered an omega level before he aged out of teenhood, so take him lightly, even though he's one of the most least truthfully not even aggro humans. The entire world, lucky. His passions live with food and music. Sure, he's a great super being, but nothing is better than serving and eating the most delicious food for a lifetime. Aspirations of being a 5-star chef was met eventually through a restaurant called the Mexican Dragon, a restaurant built around a fusion of Mexican and Japanese cuisine. Your taste buds will never be the same after an enchilada roll. Even more never the same after you realize that his restaurant is connected to a dance club he owns too, but the club has nothing on the dance studio upstairs. He's the owner and president of operations of the Mexican Dragon restaurant, food trucks, dance club, and dance studio. His superpower is Emerald Dragon. Nayeno James, of Korean human descent, hailing from the broken house of Cain. Nayeno has come from a very lovely life, until around the time he hit puberty. He caught a man sexually abusing a group of boys and helped leading to his capture. That was a defining time in his life. He was lucky enough to avoid that situation in multiple ways. He vowed he would help the world by becoming a cop, which eventually led him to being an FBI agent. He has seen many atrocities in his time. Yet, because he came from a loving family, he has always had a strong foundation of love, just never had a real shot at it. It's only because he knows that his parents will hate him. He is the eldest of his generation and the most successful, but he never acted on his homosexuality until he left home, thanks to the FBI. That's when his crazy love affairs began. But he only had 2 kind of relations with fellow agents. He has had many torrid situations that he's always reluctant to talk about because he's one of those believers of don't kiss and tell. Truly because his modus operandi belongs to undercover work. So, who could he really tell when his business is putting away syndicate lords? Exactly. Leads the perfect life of saving millions of lives under radar, so he can continue to enjoy what he deems his peace. At this day and age, he has put away 7 big-time crime lords all across the states. The only credit he needs deals with never being second-guessed about his methods of securing hardcore evidence. He's a high-ranking undercover FBI agent with the superpower of Ancient Wind. Side note, any character that has Ancient as a prefix to a superpower will become a goddess or god upon their death day. None of them know that because anyone with the Ancient prefix are the only ones in their lineage. Ancient as a superpower makes it easy for any wielder to understand the origin of their power, making them masters almost immediately once they hit puberty. Lastly, Ancients have the power of gods naturally. They can identify gods because of it. In short, helps them learn how the universe hops. Jason Spinoza, of Nubian Italian human descent, hailing from the house of Bustamante. It was never easy having baby blue hair. It was never easy having such an individual face. It wasn't easy being him or fitting in. Saving grace was music. Both of his parents still have amazing music careers. Following in their footsteps would be hard, but nothing was hard as being in school. He would spend a year in Milan, then he would spend a year in New York. Life was so different for him, but he never said no to his parents. Just wished that each school year would be better. To deal with the stress, his creativity had him making music, the booty cologne kind. Making remixes to songs was where he started. Chantel's DJ Made Me Do It was a song that inspired him to become a DJ. Not only that, but he can rap and sing, if needed. Even at the tender age of 14, he already had musicians worldwide trying to work with him. People wanted singles, people wanted mixtapes, people wanted him on their crew, people wanted whole albums with his sound at the tender age of 14. When he was done with high school, he finally allowed that to happen. Around the world he became. Wasn't so many highly acclaimed venues you would think he's a record label's golden ticket. Nah. His parents even avoided it, and they have A-list celebrity lives. Now all of those people that couldn't control their faculties back in the day still want to be around him, but you would have to be blind if you don't see the veins across his build. Wears tank tops all the time purposely, so people know why he doesn't run around with a security detail. Do not try it. He's a world-class DJ, venue prep, music producer, and project manager. His superpower is weather. Joaquin Lazar, of Creole human descent, hailing from the house of Genesis. Firstly, Genesis is a family that have been part of the Sire-Phi-Grecan coven since its dawn in the 1300s. He is included in the coven because of his father, currently, is sitting as the top-ranked coven of today's age. They are represented by dragonflies, dragons, and dragonborns, accented by the tree of life, black holes, and halos. Secondly, when he came of age to be coronated into the coven, he was awarded a normal animal familiar, meaning he is regarded by the ancients of the coven to live a life where he will need little help. His familiar is named Cinnamon. She's a cinnamon-colored bald eagle with a height of 5 feet tall and a wingspan of 13 feet. Thirdly and lastly, he's so powerful, he's considered in the top 6 of today's watch list of this universe. He rolls with 5 other heroes, and they are called Heaven of an Episode. When he's not saving worlds with his existence-bending spells, he's saving the world by being a simple third shift patrol officer. How he sees the world in darkness is not the same. He can see clear as daylight in all kinds of darkness. It's the way he wants it. He vowed to live this kind of life to his father and uncle. Why slow down protection orders when you don't have to? It was a question he was used to hearing while growing up. Following and preceding footsteps looks very great on him. By night, he's a high-ranking patrol officer of CMPD. By day, or when the world needs him, he's Ruins, a superhero through Heaven of an Episode, and a Grand Mage of Sire-Phi-Grecan. His superpower is sorcery, with the categories of shadow, psychic, currency, and fire. Gavino de Ruga, of Mexican human descent, hailing from the repaired house of Mendez, repaired because his parents died due to cartel movement. He unfortunately ended up working for the cartel, but had the purpose of sending his sisters elsewhere in the world. He was able to do that, then was able to shroud their existence elsewhere. Eventually, he got revenge for his parents' deaths, then disappeared into the Marines to protect his neck. Wasn't needed. He decimated the cartel, and those that weren't killed were too low level to care. During his time in the Marines, he met 3 other guys that had a similar circumstance of living. Parents gone because of criminals, but made do by turning into the patriarch to provide for their siblings. They became hardcore brothers, and someone high up in the Marines saw their connection. Made moves to get the 4 of them into a special unit, a fringe one. One that works with the well-being of keeping this universe a secret from others. On that note, let's keep this summary short, because classified details follows. He's an acting deluxe class private investigator and photographer, but he's really a high-ranking fringe scientist of the World Marine Corps. His superpower is black tightness, black being death, and I forgot to say this earlier, Claudio Doggin blue tightness, blue means water. Jinjo Ames, of Japanese human descent, hailing from the house of Raposo. He lost a bet to one of his best friends at the age of 13. That best friend made him go get a tattoo for losing the bet. His father took him, dead ass, to get a tattoo of his choice. So when he showed up Monday with a tattoo on his neck, he caused nothing but a ruckus. I mean, once you have a father make a decision that goes against this thing we call society, why be afraid to do whatever the fuck you want? Jinjo turned into the partier for his class, who was also his school's mascot. But underneath being that kind of a busybody, his aspirations in life dealt with making video games. and to keep it a stick. His first video game made was a dance game called Playing With My Heart. Had the whole world heavy breathing while dancing. Missy Elliott was proud, then made everyone doubly proud by programming their video game into his next, then his next, and kept that plan a stack his whole career. He calls his worlds My Haven Worlds through Okamoto Gaming, his company. Self-made, he has always been. An adorable sweetheart, he has always been. Coming with any reason to party, he has always been. Being a millionaire allows him to create a party wherever he is. You've been warned, so always keep a nice pair of kicks in your trunk. You will know when he's in your town. He's the owner and president of operations of Okamoto Gaming. His superpower is Psychic Python. Hunter Brock, of Scottish human descent, hailing from the house of Sommerdale. It was always ridiculous how he was straight passing, but out and proud. Not an enemy in sight. Got lucky with the class he was put in. Stayed lucky his entire life. Just getting high fives in all paths and never taking anything for granted. Parents said he was a miracle baby. Whole miracle. An Addison Montgomery miracle baby miracle. Let me brag some more about him. Not only was he a miracle, he was granted great leg genetics. Turned him into a track star, but somebody turned him into a running back, and he went right to Notre Dame University after high school and had that college lit for 4 years. Had college championships under his name, but it was puzzling when he didn't went pro. All he wanted after college was to make sure his parents would have a splendid life. Went to work in his favorite hardware store of Portland and was living great just being a normal person, until his dumbass played the lottery. 2 different ones that were both over $700 million in the jackpot. Won both. Went down in history for it. So he disappeared his parents and himself until the coast cooled down. It had to cool down. They wanted to get back to being in classrooms and guiding the minds of the youth. They eventually returned to being teachers, so he created an avenue for himself, being an ambassador for the queer communities, worldwide. He's a millionaire ambassador for the queers of the world. His superpower is afterlife. Lasagna West, of African Inuit God descent, hailing from the throne of Zero Crest. Yesh is ground zero for all crest of that universe, but it's a war-torn universe. He was born a twin. His brother was shipped to another humanoid-based universe. They grew up separate, but not really. Even through universal walls, they could communicate telepathically. He wasn't directly alone his entire life, but his people have him extremely shrouded in his world. His guardian was one of the Knights of the Round Table, made sure he turned out to be a good lad, answering all questions and letting him experiment with whatever. But it was the day he turned 13 that he wanted to appear his true self in this world. Blue hair, one green eye, and one red eye. He was tired of not looking like a mirror of his brother. Ever since that day, splendid, very well prepared to be Prince Lasagna once the coast was clear to return home, but that splendid feeling had him wanting to stay attached to this world. He's very attached to a lot of humans, but more so attached to this thing called video games. His world doesn't have that, and because of the constant state of war, there's no real way of bringing that technology there yet. He tends to assassinating in his world, in the real world, to deal with the rage brought upon by it. Any other time, his famous personality is bringing life to everyone around. And you guessed right, his favorite type of video games are fighting. Do not run up to get done up, though. He's a celebrity personality, world-class video game professional, and assassin, as well as one of the princes of Zero Crest. His superpower is Life Hydra. There was the final fella. Some of the fellas came from unfortunate upbringings that dealt with a lot of pain of existing. A lot. Along their journeys throughout life, they chose light instead of darkness. Darkness may have its advantages, but light is how we grow. So go out there and grow under the care of the sun and start hurting people because you can. You go fool around and come up on one of these characters in human form and find out how harmful light can be than dark. Some people that have things to lose have a warrior gene for survival. I'm not going to wish any luck trying to take anything from them. We like to identify red flags and then miss those red flags. to collect green flags until we have a lifetime flag. On a great path of success they went for a long time with collecting those green flags. Then there's an entity that jeopardizes the entirety of everyone's collections. Begrudgingly, say hello to a guy named Overuz Nathagi, of Cameroonian French god descent. He was developed in a dimension that specializes in makeshift gods. His shift was designed to go against anything that spreads light, in the way of all eradication covered by the complexities of moving like bacterial, viral, digital, and spiritual ways. In short, cancer of existing against where nothing naturally or forced to get along will continue to get along. For those that don't know where the root of war comes from, he will spark exact origins of them by simply turning on all bad emotional components of intelligent species. Or he could just pluck anything from society that's helping to keep hope alive. With an insatiable appetite to devour what is light, this god knows very little cons of existing, for he only has love for turning worlds upside down to fill on spiral into his tummy. No need to feel like he's an end all to destroying entire universes, just enough to make sure the dark side of whatever intelligent species flourishes into true poison. That's the effects of the Negavicius constellation. The solid end he makes with his God-given powers are met with a line through them, creating 13 galaxies by drawing a solid end in space and striking through it with 4 more galaxies. At the time he did it in this universe, he added tons more power to it. When it was finally brought to fruition, it smoked out pine green smoke all around the galaxies until they shined like true stars, all the way across the universe, mirroring the Isarev constellation's position to have the Tristone galaxy directly between them. This ruined the potential of hydrogen, so to speak, but the second it was done manifesting was the beacon Savaris and Quain didn't want to receive. For decades, he has been following Hokenjo from one universe to the next, just taking away everything Hokenjo has blessed tens of universes with. Lucky for this universe, one group of god hunters caught wind of universal wall-breaking signals. Savaris and Quain was developed by the preceding generation to keep the tradition of society protection that can handle any god created in any universe. Yes, their sentiment is to be just as overpowered as gods. They come in the form of 5 humans that act like the Termination Squad that handles the Termination Squad that handled the initial Termination Squad sent out. Master plans are so elaborate, it's like they have read every inch of every story of the Tristone era. Victory, all of their middle names, and they won't stop until they find the source that brought them to Universe Infinite. They are the following fellas. Estimus Rel, of African Greek human descent, hailing from the house of Ozene, a coveted family that has always been connected to Savaris and Quain. They are the spellbinders that help keep their magical might and protection so supreme, any terminating god can't just snap them away. Usually sitting in a leadership position, they command nothing but protection and slim casualty ratings. Estimus took the position of his uncle, who took the helm for a solid 10 years before handing over the reins. A position only spellbinders with conduit energy abilities that allow for building and releasing great amounts of energy at a 24/7 capacity. When he's not on the hunt for a godly threat, he's using his powers to heal random people over his universe's elaborate bounty board system. He's the president of operations for Savaris and Quain. Their superpower is sorcery, with the categories of serpent, ray, psychic, and night. Vov Diablo, of Colombian human descent, hailing from the house of Regrente. Like the fellows following him, he grew up with Estimus. Same elementary school to same college. Stuck with each other like the 5 of them couldn't live without one another. It was sick how they made 5 perfect best friends, eventually growing up through life to learn about Savaris and Quain and how the previous generation that raised them saw their potential from yay tall. Vov brings weaponry expertise to this crew. Physically, without any backing superpowers, he is the toughest blow-for-blow combatant on this squad. Has ultimate belts in more than 21 martial arts forms, but has literally trained in every weapon style known to man. As ridiculously unearthly and unrealistic as it sounds, can turn a piece of paper into a matter of ending a large squabble of rage. Yep, peep the Diablo in his name though. He respects power, but has no qualms with taking it from those that abuse it. He's a weapons expert of Savaris and Quain. His superpower is Hell's Kangaroo. Okun Chazamo, of Cambodian human descent, hailing from the house of Hungum. His family was one that pit the five guys together as kids. A little history lesson about the universe they come from. Universe Ligo Yurt. As a set of humanoids, they have always focused on understanding the components of life and protecting all of them. Their laws are mad intense, and they believe in forcing humanity to stay on the right side of justice. They have a group of people that ship around families to ensure the continued safety of their kind. One of his aunts is a time warper. She studies time very accurately and saw a glimpse of the future that needed the five of these lads growing up together. They simply stayed together so closely because of Okun's superpower that allows him to summon a magical spaceship at any given time. The only bad thing about this is he'll fuck up absolutely anything by summoning any spaceship anywhere, because the integrity of matter doesn't matter when he's summoning them. He's the pilot, mechanic, and engineer of Silvaris and Quain. His superpower is Matism Armada, with a category of spaceship. Azam Vage, of Moroccan human descent, hailing from the house of Dowdy. Due to his superpower being mirror, he was given several cheat sheets so he can instantly understand godly, humanoid, or monster threats instantly. What his family gave him was mad beneficial, but he was already using it masterfully before hitting puberty. Tapping into his powers that early on kept these lads out of a lot of trouble when they weren't adventuring with chaperones. All it takes is him having someone look into a mirror he's holding, with him being able to do that to his eyes. Welcome to molding intelligence immediately. The second he locks eyes with someone he's trying to mirror copy, he will immediately have their web of memories and be able to understand strengths and weaknesses of the target. With this also being a cheat sheet for talking purposes, say hello to the worst negotiator not even guys can say no to. He's the negotiator of Silvaris and Quain. Superpower is mirror. Cosmo Kwon, of Lebanese human descent, hailing from the house of Yazigi, a coveted family that has always been connected to Silvaris and Quain. If not one of these, many of the other high-octane astronomy wizards of their world. They need wizards with the innate ability of the universe. This keeps them teleporting from one universe to the next correctly. There's so much data that goes into projecting something from another plane of existence to the target plane. Mathematics, physics, chemistry, and aero are high components used for such technology and movement. Astronomy wizards make sure they can get across any plane of existence with as little damage as possible. Until he is the one forced to cause damage, nothing is as beautiful as him when he pilots his Gundam. But it's worse when you can see his face while he's protecting. He's the astronomer, astrologist, and universal guide of Silvaris and Quain. His superpower is astronomy. Lastly, all of them are Gundam pilots, technical gunners, enchant wranglers, and existing survivalists in their career of universal protection. This will be their 7th mission of protecting an unknown universe. Lucky for them, when they get here, they'll be accompanied by 3 other bowls that are connected to slightly different universes, like Universe Infinite. They are on the hunt for their version of Terrance Prescott, who will magically get body snatched by unknown forces, after magically getting into unnecessary epilogues with them. But actually, they were necessary. 3 of them crossed paths with him fortunately, then fell in love in miraculous ways that only gods do. In order to reclaim it, all of their know-how will have them popping up in this series of epilogues until he's left. They are from Universe Blackest, Sullian Theodore, of German human descent, hailing from the house of Hickey, always with his nose in a book indoors and his heart beating while adventuring outdoors. Intelligently rambunctious, cannot describe him. It's all due to his special combination of superpowers. X-crystallization already gives him a library of elements to work with, but the X component itself allows him to absorb and use the magic of any wielder he comes across. Coming across all was his goal since a young age. So many reasons why, but the main revolves around research aspects. Brain steers in the direction of understanding everything and anything. Perfect, because the story he endures fits his life mantra. Valedictorian, college mastery, getting a badge to be a galactic class space ranger, and then getting his doctorate in aerology made him divinely perfect for venturing into the alien that enveloped the entirety of planet Earth. He's a galactic-class space ranger and aerologist. His superpower is X-crystallization. From universe, Pretorius, Romano Montero, of Portuguese human descent, hailing from a coven named the Wonderfuls. He was rescued one day by them, labeled an orphan afterwards. This coven looks after those the most, because they literally have the least. Doing it for him had him giving them the most they would ever receive. All of his doings in life has led him to the throne of Brazil. Who knows why? He will become a king in a war-torn nation, but he had a plan. That plan revolved around pushing out evil by the means of termination. Eradicating those that means harm to others is for the hardcore. Sometimes he doesn't seem it because he's so wonderful. But all in all, he is strategizing world peace. Backed by 5 of the mightiest coven members and a round table of 13 vivaciously overpowered individuals is a golden ticket. He doesn't know it yet because he looks at world peace as something that needs attention on the daily. The events of his life will do more than open his eyes, will have his mind, vessel, and spirit seeing what's needed to eradicate the darkness of mankind. He will have his flying castle bringing together all, even those that oppose peace. He's the king of Brazil and the king of the Wonderfuls coven. His superpower is mastery, for the categories of electricity, life, orbital, and dream. From universe, Zero Zeus, Ezion Jajoran, of Turkish human descent, hailing from the house of Musa. Every person that is blessed with time as a superpower lives a different life because all of them experience time measuring differently, microscopically. He's one of those that feels everything all at once. The only way to turn it off is by sitting still or sleeping. Head was gone by the time he was 13, but that's when he could finally learn how to control his mind and his powers. It was entirely special the way his entire vessel changed the second he was 13 years old outside of the moon. One red eye, one blue eye, so he can catch everything in 3 dimensions, purposely for the aspect of 3 sides to every story. Being able to see clearly from 3 points of view allowed him to start making magical riffs. The Super Being Surveillance Program had so much fun with that they started calling him Riff. Then one day, he rifted several things apart. Doing that gave him his superpower niche. You'll need more than luck whenever you see him, because you'll always see 3 of him, and you might lose yourself being separated thrice. He's a hero through the association of innocence, as Riff. His superpower is Time Ray. The 3 of these knuckleheads have an epilogue that feels like several epilogues in one. Then the love of their life disappeared, due to major components of the Negavicius constellation. When Overrul's goes to eat, he does what all guys do, witness the society of intelligent species first, before striking. He saw so many people in so many parallels of love that he was getting inspired to try to eat in another way. He pinpointed which humans had successful relations in all 16 universes, then decided to use them as ground zero. When he discovered all of the god might that went into creating Terrance Prescott, he had the perfect main course. Even though he only did this in 16 parallel universes, somehow, across all planes of existence, there were 3 other Terrances that were magically linked to this Terrance. Because of them all being virtually 35 and octane magical worlds, when the final of the 16 were snatched up, the 3 of them were magically pulled into Universe Infinite. Then Negavicius had the 3 of them snatched up by a group of humans he met in another universe. Yes, he's been jumping universes like JoJo be jumping trains. The evil he saw in the 6010s was pure blood gushing from all avenues of existence, and that was just him seeing all 6 of them together, before they walked into a convention and killed 93% of those people. What evil guy doesn't like a small group of terrorists? Exactly. Moving along, the 3 Terrance Prescotts appeared in 3 different areas of Universe Infinite. They broke off in 3 pairs to capture him for their old pal Overus. You might find this disturbing, but they have been working for him for free for about 11 years. They too are 35 years old. Since 22, they have been working themselves tirelessly to get back at their humanity. Still are getting back at them at home, without ever being apprehended by authorities of their universe.
But once they were done with doing what brings them joy, they broke bread with overalls and went back home, to not be worried about whatever universe they just gained access to. While they were taking off their equipment and getting ready to relax, Overuz had another humanity dangling over his mouth with light sauce, making it the brightest eating experience he's ever had. Food tastes so full of light to him that he spaced off for once, and when guys space off, they really be universe hopping. Every molecule he was swallowing resulted in a breakup in one of the parallels. Sometimes even fatal breakups had everyone in his universe fried and done. He was too. Imagine all that energy a light god made. Now imagine it tasting like the perfect food, but imagine feeling like Nelly Furtado's wait for you the entire time. 'Cause it will feel like a movie, if you were a god. Overuz Nithaki has Terrance Prescott, all of them merged into one. Even guys that have been alive for 600 zillions of years cannot handle being merged with themselves over and over again. While his overpowered self is stuck in a mind conundrum, Overuz has no worries with unparalleling the universe. The most important version of each citizen was the remaining of the unparalleling. 16 of them are in love with Terrance Prescott, when 16 of them are drawn together by Everett Brown. Wait a second. I just realized I haven't given a lick of information about this nigga's chauffeur. Everett Brown, of German human descent, hailing from the House of Helvetican. Everett took his name as inspiration to be everywhere in Yesh. His parents loathed him for it. Y'all named me Everett, 'cause y'all want me to go everywhere. They lived a very, 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 very simple life before procreating him. And that's an ode to everyone out there allowing their child to break up their relationship. He didn't break up theirs, but for the things he wanted, they had to upgrade their own lives so he could have it. He saw life as a gift. He must be everywhere as much as possible. He directed his life in a way he could see it all. Aviation, driving, dimension hopping. Something had to lead him into an occupation that could have him everywhere. When he finally got his piloting license, he was the same age as the young 25 Terrance. Terrance had his sources checked for a specific niche of a person to be his chauffeur and pilot. Even paid for him to come to Charlotte back then. Even picked him up from the airport to start a long week of an interview where Terrance was actually being a chauffeur, to get Everett on board to a courageous life for making sure these stories are experienced. When Everett learned how Terrance wanted to move around within their week's worth of time, he didn't turn the job down, for his everywhere was finally given to him and has a new boss as a new friend. Ultimately, Everett is brown, the most humbling, lovely color of comfort. He's been his middle name ever since, and not no one regrets ever meeting him. Even looking in his eyes will make you want to be everywhere. He's the business chauffeur and pilot for the Tristone Era Animation Corporation. His superpower is Gemini. Now Everett, he wasn't there for Terrance's first exes, the one from college and the one from the reality show, but he knew about them because he watched Stranger Code. He knows he fits perfectly in Terrance's business life. But knowing the other 3 exes over time, he learned that Terrance's choice to hire him was perfect for his personal life. What hoes know is to put in work, for their appetite is lossless. He even met Michelangelo and Dario. Just like they were on the reality show, ridiculous. But it was in how August was ridiculous, how Javon was ridiculous, and how Claudio was ridiculous. They'd have you shaking until the pearls fell out too. Jesse Ware and Pablo Vittora know what I'm talking about. You took very important lessons from all of those scenarios. Would you be able to? I said all of it to welcome you to this. Terrance and Everett found something one day on their travels. Thurs Verutavin is a mythical artifact that belongs to the 16 parallel universes of Infinite. This artifact is shaped like a triangular prism that is completely made out of crystallized humanoid ether systems of at least 1 zillion people. Holding it and powering up would give you a zillion understandable views of your own superpowers. When it was formed through eons before the ancient times, it created the Bermuda Triangle. It simply sits at the bottom of a waterfall in the dimension. The only reason why Everett and Terrance heard about it dealt with an urban legend revolving a female. Leave it to those knuckleheads to try fate. With Terrance's undying thirst for adventure and Everett's undying survival skills, they ventured in bravely, knowing that most people that walk in do not walk out. After they both ventured to one of the many waterfalls, they put on scuba diving gear to move around a lot of stuff underwater. With Everett having Gemini powers, He had about 25 versions of himself, sacrificing to move stuff underwater. Terrance's nifty ice powers allowed for a lot of things to float to the surface, but had a better time forcing water to take a form so they could just walk down to dig better. Eventually, after digging around the first waterfall, they found a third Verutavan. And no, sometimes Terrance doesn't use his god abilities while adventuring. Also at that time, this one Overus was beginning his feast, but couldn't find any other Terrances, no matter how hard he looked. While he was lessening the populations of all of the 16 lovers, Everett and Terrance were coming out of every Bermuda Triangle with a treasure no one was ready for. Upon ascending to return to Charlotte, Everett eventually set the airship on autopilot. They went to the hyperbolic chamber so they could do everything and anything. When Everett activated his powers to see if it's really true, he simply powered up and had instant access to see from a zillion different viewpoints, while illogically understanding every direction, world, or viewpoint he saw. He saw three very significant things that revolved around lives without Terrance. The three men he saw that were in love with him and how different the worlds were, as every cell in his body was in such a euphoric state, he simply started floating. When he was close to the middle of the room, he finally let go of the triangular prism and told Terrance it was his turn. But at that time, throughout the 17 seconds he floated upward, Overus snatched all 16 versions of him and began to do something no one should ever do. Combine all 16 gods plus the other three of Terrance for the ultimate feast. For Constellation Wars, it's established that for 5 years Hokenjo has set up Infinite as an infinity love zone. Overus ruins that all in a handful of hours after researching why Hokenjo unleashed the most magic he has so far. Also, while unparalleling Universe Infinite, during those times, Everett had Thurs Verutavan secured on the airship and realized that the context on his phone resembled a combination of what he felt while holding the prism. Then he goes into the war room and starts Googling things until he understands that he has 16 minds in one, the only person on the planet to have that knowledge at that moment. Not even the other gods have pieced it together that something untamely magical has happened to their universe. One by one, he messages all of the fellas and keeps trying to reach Terrance. None of them can get in contact with Terrance either. Everett had all of them meet up on the space colony Lover's Mask. Before Everett could get there to find the 16 fellas, to get on some news they probably won't believe, Savars and Quain disrupts him because their god machine deems him as a blip on the radar to what's going on. While the 6 of them work on believing one another, the 16 fellas are on the space colony, simply waiting in the dark. If only Everett had group texted all of them, it wouldn't have been 4 of them connecting to make 4 groups. While they were doing that, Savars and Quain and Everett were gearing to head to the rendezvous point. The 4 groups of 4 fellows were on the 4th day of what seemed like the world turning opposite after 5 years, trying to find the Terrance all of them knew. By the 4th day, there was so much high-octane magic all over the universe that everyone began to feel what they lost, as if Hokenjo had a fail-proof to remind everyone that the love isn't lost, if it were ever to go away for any amount of time. They all, separate groups, began to follow his essence into prime locations of what they experienced with their Terrance, in hopes they can find some clues to why he has disappeared. On top of the world receiving data about some of their breakups that we all about to be in the Guinness record book. Savars and Quain doesn't believe in splitting up though. They had a decision to make. They already had the answer to defend against guys acting up, but they needed to strategize how to end this fiasco by finding a god that started it. With Terrance being a high focal point to the distress signal, they figured it would be best to get 16 focal points of the unparalleling in one spot. In turn, giving Estima's spell capabilities of creating a way into Terrance's location. Yet, what Overus did was taking so much light, spiritual evil energy started manifesting and everyone falling out of love all of a sudden. This vicious takeaway will have them trying to fight for their lives once they are on the surface of the planet again. And on that note, shh, be quiet. You can hear how much agony humanity has to deal with when there's no love to lead the way. And yes, everyone forgot the lyrics to that Spice Girls song. Then there were 3 focal points Overus simply didn't take into consideration. Best friends. Sonny got a text from Everett, and his reaction was, "Tell me where to meet up." Jayuse and Kelly's had the same reaction. Contacting them made it easier to catch up to the 4 groups that were made. The fight was on from then on, but let's take a trip down memory lane one last time. Sonny likes to say that he's Terrance's best friend. Terrance let him have that sentiment and keeps that high friendly with him because they cool. But with how Sonny still has a major crush on him, Terrance can't get him the same sentiment for peace reasons. Jayusei is his actual best friend nowadays. They meet up once a week at Toyama Express, Fleming's, Burger King, IHOP, or K&W. They have to. It's the only time of the week where they escape their clever busyness and tend to natural ways of dealing with stress. Jayusei spills about Kelix and his badge life. Terrance gabs about the many lives of the animators of his company. With everyone usually doing good, they always leave the lunch or dinner laughing. Keep this in mind. Terrance is a guide in the whole world that knows about them, but they don't know who be guides. Jayusei and Kelix knows because Terrance has spent so much time with them, he felt like they should know. Besides, he kind of looked at the ether of the universe and deemed they wouldn't have a problem with him being a guide after getting them guide-cheating perfect gifts. Now Sonny, he could never tell Sonny. He has thought about it, looked into it, about 6 whole times, and every time, Sonny leaves. Terrance will not lose a rare red-eyed human, vowed to not lose him if he ever comes across him, mostly for kicks, but even in an imaginative world, red-eyed beings are rare. Now let's move on before I spend 40 hours on another folklore piece. Sonny, of Scandinavian human descent, hailing from the house of legend. He was so chill, as a baby, as a tyke, as a child, as an adolescent. But the moment he could hybrid transform into a hedgehog, you think Sonny the Hedgehog is annoying? Wait till you see a permanently glowing one trying to fight crime at the speed of light. From 13 to 17, this Sunhead was an acting teen vigilante. He had Wyoming lit back then, and even though he stayed running around because he could, he was still a genius. A genius that couldn't curb the need to adventure, but one day, both of his parents got fired. He created a master plan around tech that turned a 17-year-old into a billionaire. Parents have been swimming free since. So is he. The conundrum around that dealt with him chasing thrills until men became his thrill, but he kept choosing wrong. Trying to date with that much money was troublesome. Through all the time he was struggling in love, he made sure people were safe with his tech or by his fist. Still a crime fighter, but because he's just as fast as light, it's very hard to catch him being a crime fighter. He's a developer and enhancer of the Watch 'Em app and vigilante. His superpower is Sun Hedgehog. Jayusei Velvin, of Japanese Nubian human descent, hailing from the house of Nizazori. Viva la Galaxy is the name of the coven he's a member of, joined their ranks when he turned 10, a secret he kept from his parents because, why not? He was already a wordsmith with a professor level of reading, reciting, structuring, and handling literature. When he learned about spellbinding, it consumed him because he now has a reason to rhyme. But he stayed talking shit back then, and still to this day. Talk shit at such a massive level. Talk about getting on people's nerves. If there was a combination of Willem Belli, Wanda Sykes, Kathy Griffin, Ali Wong, and Joe Budden, you wouldn't know how to escape. Talking that much led him down a path of psychology. Somehow, some way through college, his mind was changed. For the safety of society, he wanted to go into law enforcement. When he acquired the position of a negotiator, the love to hear himself talk was finally gained. Finally. Having that job is just fuel to the fire that is known as Viva Sectel. His drag persona, always with the rainbow wigs, always with the rainbow attire, always with eyelashes that will make a regular person fall off the face of the planet, always in Christina Aguilera horror makeup, always with so much glitter you'll complain about it, and always with the quickest sack taps to anybody with a smart mouth. Yeah, he's really like that. He can beat those charges of assault too. Every captain in every jurisdiction, 20 stations out, will put their badge on the line for him, for he has abused his sorcery skills to ensure he can get away with anything. He's a SWAT negotiator and the man behind Viva Sectel. His superpower is sorcery, with the categories of ice, explosion, glitter, and sword. Kelix Kinzos, of Hawaiian human descent, hailing from the house of Hekekia. First and most important, he was always revered as a protected citizen because of his superpowers. He was in a super being surveillance program for 7 on up, all because his powers are called Zombie Armada. Cutting to his most detrimental ability, he can create zombies by shooting people in the head. That makes them magically invulnerable against headshots. No other way to stop them than dismembering them. He was even more protected when it was proven he could do that by the time he was 15, because Kellex always felt like people were afraid of him. He knew he could get anything he wanted, for he is on every watch list around the worlds of this world. Every. Yes, he's famous. But to secure a future of being able to do anything he wanted, he used honey instead of vinegar. His sweetness is very, 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 very addictive. Hug feels like safety in the form of a giant Shiva. Even with the giant scars under his eyes, he's revered as a lovely man. When he took up an aerologist's job in Charlotte, he would soon come across a naive Jayuse, who was love at first sight, love at first sound, then love all over the place for them. For they always wanted somebody as magically inclined as one another. He's a galactic-class aerologist. His superpower is Zombie Armada. And that's all 36 of them. Yep, that's all I gotta say about Lover's Mask. Now you know what kind of world it is. To close out their folklore tales, gander at the last tidbits of casting. These images will show who are all connected to their stories. It will go in the order of which they were created, with small explanations of where some of the characters come from. You never know which one of mine will pop up in the fantasy files already. Then your nigga remembered the 6010s. Yep. When everyone saves Terrance Prescott, the first thing he's going to want is water. The second is thirst virutivum, and the third is revenge. The only thing I'm disclosing is the characters that are going to come to Evil Terrance's binge call. In short, there's 3 core versions of Terrance: good, neutral, and evil. For the most part, neutral is taking the helm and keeping everyone out of trouble. Evil Terrance sees nothing but crosshairs zooming in on targets. It takes good Terrance to mentally sit him back on the hammock with a Mai Tai. I digress, but good Terrance will know what's up the entire time, and he will be taking notes. Anyway, moving along. As of now, the characters that come to the bench call, in order of the stories that were created, are
Clorox the Dragon,
Miss Warren, Marie Hunter, Officer Akezu, Celebrate Queens, Poison, Toxin, Crossbones, Policina Vigils, Garland Robles, Craig Heighton, Equion Dozer, Princess Ailish, Lawyer the Great, Fit, Orox, Pragmatistic Elge, Emmett Lex, as a menu, General Rilla, Mac, Universe,
Zia-Ra,
Law, Twistel, Duffy & Co., Rochelle Odin, Young Ho, Adola Vobez, Zelina Crocodile, and Whirly. You know me by now. They all arrive with the utmost respect for Evil Terrance, but are boiling over the excitement because they finally get to work with him. One by one, they teleport within range to assemble an unforgettable team. Once all are there for the Revenge Squad, they go to the enemy's world, which is called Universe Chaos Realms, and they aren't the only ones that's going to have to take a hit. Once again, provoking both Hokinjo and Overrush to act the entire guide up. But be easy with your punk ass. Learn how to knuckle up before it's too late. TPB out. Mwah.